Welcome to the show. We're your hosts, Cohn and Jack Hammer. Nothing is happening in 49ers world, but it's still very interesting. The inactivity is really angering certain 49ers fans, and they look like they don't know what they're doing right now. Like they've messed up. And if there's one thing teams are good at is deflecting blame and explaining why they didn't mess up. And I've been waiting for the Niners side of the story because right now it looks bad, Jack. And I think recently we've been getting their side of the story. I'm not going to name names, but if you've been watching, if you follow national reporters, local reporters, I think you've seen the same kind of report come from multiple people, and it's basically that the Niners actually it was good, probably didn't have any offers on the table at all. The surgery made it near impossible to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for a variety of reasons, and John Lynch did not mess up. The 49ers did not mess up. Jimmy Garoppolo is not. No one is at fault. It's just that the guy played through an injury. He got hurt. He had to have surgery, and it's all a victim of circumstances. No one did anything wrong. Everyone gets a participation trophy. What do you think, Jack?
Well, I think if you want to say that somebody did something wrong, I think you point to the decision to play Jimmy Garoppolo after the thumb injury. I think that's where you point to a decision that was made. You can't protect guys from injury later on, in the playoffs or whatever. You're going for it. I think the decision to play Garoppolo week 18 and beyond is where the problem, all this stems from. If we want to go back and lay blame, you've got to go back to week 18, and that's where the 49ers are to blame.
You can definitively say that. I'm going to speculate, though. I don't buy this. Mm-hmm. I think the 49ers, it seemed like there were a lot of people creating the impression 3-4 weeks ago that there was a market for Jimmy. Like journalists locally and nationally, and the Niners weren't doing anything to change that perception. I mean, Mike Florio was basically saying that he heard that Lynch was telling people he had an offer of 2 second-round picks on the table. John Middlecoff heard that he had an offer of 1 second round. I mean, the whispers were out there. It wasn't even whispers. It was like just straight up talking, it sounded like to me. I mean, and that was the impression. And then all of a sudden, things got weird. Deshaun Watson came back. Matt Ryan was on the market. No one saw it coming, and Jimmy Garoppolo didn't get traded. And the Niners are saying, well, actually, technically, we never could have traded him. Like, that's not what I was hearing 3 weeks ago. I think it's kind of convenient to say that now.
It is a little bit of a convenience. I do think you do have to go back and it sounded to me listening to John Lynch when he was at the combine that the 49ers didn't know that this surgery was coming, and which was odd enough to begin with.
Right. You're not on the same page on that? Where's the communication?
Right. And this has been an issue between these two parties throughout the year. That's been an issue between
Jimmy called him up like, hey, guess what I just did? 3 guesses.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's
shoulder surgery. Nice.
Yeah. And so I think that there might have been offers for like a second or, whatever. I think it was all contingent upon how these injuries were going to play out. So I give the 49ers a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I definitely understand where you're coming from, because I do think it's a little fishy the way that I think that the reports that came out recently definitely were coming out of the 49ers.
It makes them look way not as bad.
Right.
And I can't prove it, but I have a feeling they could have traded Jimmy Garoppolo to the Colts for the 3rd round pick, the pick that the Colts ultimately traded for Matt Ryan. Because again, 3 weeks ago, no one knew Matt Ryan was available. And I think from all reports, there was one team that was interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. It was the Colts. The Niners were holding out for more. They ended up trading that pick. I can't prove it, and I'd love to know for sure, but my hunch tells me that they could have had that 82, pick number 82. That's what I think.
Well, and if that's the case, and they had that on the table and they decided to pass on it, that's a failure.
I would think so. I would think so. So that's how the Niners are spinning it. Of course, the teams don't come out and just say, look, we could have had this 3rd round pick 3 weeks ago. We blew it. Hey, give us a freaking break, all right? We blew it, okay? Teams don't do that. They're like, we got to get our side of the story out there so we don't get ridiculed and then fired one day, because it's all ammunition. Anyway, yeah, I don't buy it. But I'm always curious to see how teams – because these are billion-dollar organizations. They're very good at it. And when the spin comes out, it's always very convincing. I don't buy it.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some spin going on here, I think.
Absolutely. Okay, so it gets even better. Ian Rappaport went on the Pat McAfee show today. Shout out YouTube content creators, and said that he really could see Jimmy Garoppolo staying on the Niners another season. The longer that he's on the roster, the more likely it is that he stays another season. And he goes, really, why would that be such a bad thing? You know, another year for Trey Lance to sit and marinate? Really? That's what he said. And so, one, I put total stock into that. It's Ian Rappaport. I would think that means it's a real possibility. But two, I can't forget, okay, the day of the Vikings game, the morning of his little news drop on Sunday, he said, so this week, Kyle Shanahan left the door open for Jimmy Garoppolo to come back in 2022. Allow me to shut that door. And he had this whole like dramatic thing and his plan to still trade him. And he was so dismissive because people like me and you were starting to put the pieces together and be like, hey, they don't use Trey Lance anymore. There's no more Trey Lance package. He's not getting inserted into games and blowouts. What the hell is going on? And so he did that. And I asked Jimmy Garoppolo after that game. They won. I was like, hey, Jimmy, did you hear the report today? Did you hear the report that you're not coming back next year no matter what? Oh, save a Super Bowl run. And he was like, man, I was just focused on the game. And that was a good answer. Now Ian Rappaport walking it back. Can we get a retraction, Ian? Anyway, I think this is very interesting. What do you think of Ian's latest report and complete flip-flop?
The flip-flop, I think this all just goes, again, this is a little bit of spin from the 49ers. It goes back to when the report came out from Rappaport during the season. He was basically parroting what the 49ers front office had said at the time of the trade for Trey Lance, right? After they traded for Trey Lance, there was the whole spin of, we can keep Jimmy Garoppolo for 2 years. We're fine with that. Right. And Jork had said, I have no problem with keeping him. That's fine. Yeah. And at that point, when that report came out from Rappaport that he's gone, where were the 49ers at that point? They were 5-5, right? They were in the middle of their kind of rebound, like early on in their rebound period. They had been had gone from, I think, 3-5 to 5-5 at that point, going into taking on Minnesota. So I think that's where that whole why that was the doors being shut, because they weren't in the playoff hunt or the Super Bowl race at that point.
Right. They were competing with the Vikings just to be a wild card team, and winning that day kept them alive. They were walking a tightrope at the end of that season. Look, I totally believe this report. I think Jimmy's coming back this year because, I mean, think about it. We're supposed to believe that they're going to trade him right before training camp starts. How? Who's going to have cap space? Who's going to have $27 million in cap space to trade for Jimmy then? So they could, no OTAs, no mini camp, just come in right before training camp, learn our offense. Jimmy with his super high football IQ, learn our offense hella quick and be our starter. Like, what? That doesn't seem realistic at all. I don't see it. A trade and then releasing Jimmy Garoppolo so they could use the cap space on what? What's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, at that point, yeah, they're not going to, the 49ers wouldn't be utilizing. The only way that the 49ers, it benefits the 49ers with the cap is that the money rolls over to the next year.
Of course,
right?
Of course. But they don't care about that. They'd rather
really
have a third-round comp pick. A third-round comp pick a year down the line means more to the 49ers than rolling over $25 million in cap space, and that's real. You know it is. I don't know why.
No, I understand. I hear you, and I do believe I'm with you. I've stated more than I've stated too many times that I think that the 49ers are going to be bringing back Jimmy Garoppolo to the point where everybody thinks I'm joking about it, but it's something that I'm dead serious.
I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back.
I'm dead serious that I think he's going to be around. It doesn't. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know where I know we're going to be getting into some of this other stuff probably down the road, but it makes sense to bring him back in some ways. It doesn't make him sense when we look at the salary cap hit for a backup quarterback, but I'm all for having Jimmy Garoppolo come back and have a little bit of pressure on Trey Lance to take over the job. I really am. I don't think it should hurt him.
Okay, so what's gonna happen is Trey Lance will essentially have an audition, right? Minicamp, OTAs, you get all the first team reps, all of them. And if things go well, you probably get all the first team reps. Oh, well, I don't even know. Just see what happens. The audition is minicamp and OTAs. Let's see how you do. If you do great, maybe they cut Jimmy, although I don't see it. If you struggle, then they still have Jimmy. So it's sort of like a safety net again, and I think they are legitimately afraid of the unknown with Trey Lance and don't really know what to expect. So, yeah, I think Ian's finally got it right. It took him a while.
I think he's he's onto something because Rappaport usually is pretty solid on this kind of stuff unless you're asking him about who the 49ers are going to pick at number 3. Otherwise, they're usually pretty good with that.
I spent like $100 on this freaking 4K camera, and it's always out of focus. What the hell is this, man? Yo. Okay, there we go.
There you go. Sit back further.
Yeah, I guess. I'd like an apology from Ian Rappaport, though. We were talking about this in October, and he went on NFL Network and said, allow me to shut that door. Dude, that's epic, man. You can't say that. We need an apology. I'll accept an apology, though. Anyone who apologizes, I accept. But, dude, you threw us off the set. We had this in October, and you blew it. And you didn't even have inside information, man. You were just repeating old information like it was new. What was that? That was lazy journalism. That was bad journalism, Ian. Seriously, look at my face. Am I joking?
Hey.
You want a retraction and an apology. Thomas Delacruz says, if Jimmy is back, the Boo Birds will be at Levi's, and I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. Revenge Tour 3.0. It'll be better than the first two. Way better.
No, yeah.
It'll be way better.
Uh-huh.
Eduardo says, Grant, the 49ers will wait until one of these quarterbacks get hurt to trade Jimmy. Doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I think that might be the plan that they're kind of following along. But that's like you just said.
That's best case scenario.
Correct.
Trey Lance knocks it out of the park. The quarterback gets hurt. They trade Jimmy Garoppolo for 3 first-round picks. That's the best for. But saving that, let's talk about something more realistic. Jimmy Garoppolo's still on this team come training camp. Here's the scenario. Let's say Jimmy Garoppolo's on the team when training camp starts. There's no trade market for him. The Niners would rather get the 3rd-round comp pick next year than create cap space that they can roll over. Will the Niners have a legitimate quarterback competition this year? And by legitimate, I mean splitting reps, Lance and Garoppolo. Not like last year where Garoppolo had 95% of the reps.
I think the way that this would work out is very similar to what we saw this last year. I think you would see Lance getting all the 1 reps and then Garoppolo getting the 2s, and then maybe they split some reps here and there when they get to the move the ball periods or what have you. Not where they're rotating them in and out, but just where they move some things around. But I could see a legitimate quarterback competition. I think the 49ers last year really wanted this. I think Trey Lance had an opportunity to win the job last year, and the 49ers really wanted him to show that he could do it. And I think they, in a way, want that again. I would hope that they want that again because there are people in that locker room that are definitely pro Trey Lance. There's also a group of people that were always pro Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think for the 49ers, the best case scenario is for Trey Lance to blow it out in the preseason, have a little bit of pressure on him, and show that he can stand up to it and that he's the guy. And I think that's when these guys that have kind of been in Camp Jimmy, slide over and they just follow the leader.
I don't see it going like that. I think they're going to have a quarterback competition because Kyle Shanahan doesn't want to make a decision. No one wants to lead here. And if they bring Jimmy Garoppolo back to decide to make him a $27 million backup would just be juicy. It would be so controversial. It would be so unprecedented. It would be weird to have all that money taking the second team reps. I don't know if the locker room would stand for it. Honestly, I don't know if the locker room would stand for it. I think, to be fair, I think they're going to have a quarterback competition. I think they're going to give Trey Lance all these reps and OTAs and minicamp. He's going to be up and down because he's inexperienced, and Kyle's going to get nervous because he's a little conservative. And he's going to have a quarterback competition, and Jimmy's going to get half the reps, and Trey's going to get half the reps, and they're going to take a vote in the locker room. They're going to have an anonymous vote. They're going to be like, okay, kiss your head, cover your eyes, and then raise your hand if you want Jimmy. That's how they're going to do. That's pretty much how, because they're a family. Anyway, I think they're going to have a quarterback competition, and we're going to be able to document it, Jack. I'm really excited for it.
I think what they'll do is they'll just kick everybody out of the room. It's just going to be Parag Marathe, and he's going to have them all come up one at a time, fill out a name, and put it in the box, Survivor style.
I agree. Well, all right. Well, I guess I'm hoping for a legit quarterback competition because imagine the views our live streams would get. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like must-see TV, but they won't broadcast it because whatever. So it's like, here's what happened. And then you'll have one guy with a spreadsheet, but then you'll have us, and it'll be so much fun. Yeah, I really think that it's on a crash course for this. The Niners don't want to make a decision. They're not going to release him. They're not going to trade him. And they're not going to disrespect him by benching him. And so they're really going to tell us that, well, I don't want to get ahead of us, but I'm looking forward to a quarter. Trey could win it. He could just blow him away, right? Because he's got this great skill set. But, man, Jimmy's got he's got the voters in his pockets, man. I don't know.
I'm looking. If it comes down to it, I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be must see YouTube channel TV.
I don't know. Once they stopped using Trey Lance at all down the stretch, it seemed like they were kind of foreshadowing this happening. Just saying. All right. Miguel says if Jimmy is a starter week 1, then that means Trey Lance is a bust, and I will not watch trash quarterback play for 2022 season. I'm done watching Jimmy G. Done. Danny Miguel, I like it, man. All caps at the end. He really just got.
He's fired up. I like it.
Fired up, man. That's great.
But I guarantee you this: Miguel will be watching when the 49ers are in the playoffs. He will not have his TV turned off.
No. Okay, let's keep going because this I keep comparing this to Mad Max. Like, this is a very dystopian future where there's no water and everyone's fighting each other, and Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the 49ers. So we agree. Jack and I agree. Not getting traded, not getting released, coming back. We a little bit disagree on the structure of training camp, but let me ask you flat out, Jack. Will Jimmy Garoppolo be the week 1 starter?
Well, you already gave the answer. You said you think he's going to be the week 1 starter.
What do you think?
I think it's going to. I think it's going to be Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance is going to win because I think if Trey Lance goes into this training camp and there is a competition and he cannot beat out Jimmy Garoppolo, we have bigger issues to talk about than Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance and any of those kind of things. There's a much bigger issue at hand, I think.
Trey Lance is going to lose his quarterback competition, Jack. He's no way he can win this quarterback competition. I just don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. They're going to be operating the same offense. Trey Lance, while he's very gifted, is very inexperienced, and he's going to be getting half the reps instead of all the reps. I think he's probably going to have some good days and some bad days like Jimmy Garoppolo, and the team is going to go with known quantity. They are afraid of the unknown in Santa Clara. And unless Trey Lance is just far and away better than Jimmy Garoppolo, which probably won't happen because there's going to be a spreadsheet saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is phenomenal on 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8 in 2-minute drills between the days of July 8th and July or whatever it is when it's raining. Those are the splits at Trey Lance. I'm just saying I'm really cynical. I think I'm just a cynical person in general, but that means I'm usually right when it comes to the Niners. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the week 1 starter because the locker room is going to – we already know how they're going to vote. And no one in the front office or the coaching staff is going to overrule him. I can't wait for more Jimmy G because the way he throws that 10-yard pass over the middle is just a thing of beauty. And I haven't seen it enough. I get to see another season. I love it. More Jimmy.
No, I'm just glad we have you on video saying that you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to beat out Trey Lance. I like that. That. That's fantastic.
There's no question.
I'm joking with you, but I just disagree. I think that if they allow them to compete and it's fair. I have one question for you because last year was the first time I'd covered the 49ers in training camp. Do the quarterbacks usually split one and 2s usually have like the same number of reps like they had this year? Whereas remember Garoppolo would go 4 reps and then take 4. The only time it would really change is when they go into their move the ball periods. Is that usually how it works?
I believe so. You want to get the reserves as much work as possible. You don't want to overwork the starters. Yes. But in the past, what they would do is Mullins and Beathard would split the second team reps. This year, Lance got all of them. So they had the same amount of reps, Garoppolo and Lance, but they were different types of reps.
Gotcha.
This year, I've never seen an actual quarterback competition because I think what coaches don't want is for the quarterback decision to be made by the media, right? They kind of want to control it and to just let it play out organically in front of 10 media people with different perspectives is a little dangerous, but I hope they do. I hope they freaking do. It's a little too good to be true, but I hope they do.
It goes back to, I think they need Trey Lance to sell the teammates more than they need him to sell any of us. But I think that's the direction that they're taking.
That's just so tough though. I mean, it's like being a freshman in high school and trying to become more popular than the most popular senior in the school. Like, what are you really going to do? He knows everyone way better than you. Just got here. You can't drive a car. You barely have a mustache. There's only so much charm you can really work in this situation. Trey, I feel bad for you, man. Good luck, because what you're going to have to do is win over the locker room and on and off the field. It's like, that's hard to do. And he seems like he tries. He's always fist pumping guys, and he's a good leader. It's like, They love Jimmy, and there's nothing you can do about it, man. Have you seen Jimmy smile? He smiles with his whole face. It's just, how do you beat that? Sorry. Okay, let's move on. John25 says Lynch's ego is blowing up the Niners Super Bowl window. Lynch's ego, Jed's inactivity, Kyle's reticence to make a decision. I don't know, man. I don't get it. But funny things happen. Maybe they win the Super Bowl this year. Maybe George Odom makes a play in the playoffs on special teams. That's all they need. Maybe he intercepts Matthew Stafford in the NFC Championship game. He had 2 picks last year.
Yeah, he had 2. He's only had 2. I think that's a big addition for them, though, for their defense. With where they are. And, are we going to be talking about the 49ers offseason so far in a minute?
Yes.
Or do you want to get into that now? Okay.
Real quick,
okay.
I wanted to say, I don't think it's just Lynch's ego. I just feel like there's a whole attitude this year of like complacency. Like, hey, man, we made the NFC Championship game last year. Like, get off our back. Stop telling us what to do. We're good. That's kind of how I feel about it. Like last year, there was some urgency at times. Like now they're like, just let us do what we do. We've proven we're a good franchise. Like you haven't had winning seasons back to back since I was 25. Like, let's see.
That's true. That's true. It hasn't been since 2013.
13? Yeah, man. Let's see. Because the way this is like trending, a bizarre quarterback situation, a worse offensive line, like this could go bad. Like 2020, your quarterbacks could get hurt. I mean, this has happened to you before. This has happened. It happened 2 years ago, and you're running it back. They're running it back.
I think you just hit on my biggest piece of where this team's headed in a minute when we get there. Because if you go back to the 2020 team, that team should not have been 6-10.
Let's talk about it right now. I don't know if I do have a topic waiting for us. Well, what do you want to say about what this team?
I'm just going to say, I think if you go back to 2020, I think the 49ers were a quarterback away from being a playoff team. With all the injuries that they had, and on the offensive side, they didn't have Deebo Samuel for a while. George Kittle was on and off the field. Really, Samuel missed most of the season, and same thing with Kittle. They had a mess in the front on the front with the center and right guard position constantly rotating around because of injuries. They were just awful there. Who was it? Hroniss Grasu was the starting center. Yeah. I think week 1 or week 2. And despite all that, they were a quarterback away from being a playoff team. There were so many games throughout that season. If they had a quarterback, they could just not make the stupid throw and turn it over. As much as I liked Nick Mullins, I think he was the reason why they didn't get to the playoffs that year.
I just disagree with that. To me, what happened in 2020 was the offensive line was so bad. They gave up so many quarterback hits. They got all 3 of their quarterbacks hurt. Jimmy got hurt right off the bat. Nick Mullins hung in there a long time, got hurt, and Beathard took a pounding too. I felt like that's what could happen this year. They've already downgraded at left guard. They don't know what's happening to center. Right guard's okay, and right tackle's a total question mark. Like, who's to say they're not going to have another season where Trey Lance is the starter? Everyone gets hurt. We've seen this happen before. I don't know. I guess you don't go there mentally in March, but it's football. I don't know. Concerned. Pass protection, not great, except at left tackle.
I think it's okay to be concerned.
This was why we were against signing Trent Williams.
Well, it was the value, the amount of money that he was going to be chewing up was what the question was, and that's going to be something to think about down the road.
Offensive lineman last year, not one.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that their depth along the offensive line is a little bit better than we give it credit for. They have the ability. What's that?
I like their depth on the offensive line. It's the starters,
right? Well, I understand, but I feel like they're. I think that I don't know if they're going to make a move in free agency for their offensive lineman. I just have a feeling that's going to come in the draft, just the way that everything's set up. So I think they're going to. I really think you're going to see. I probably told you already. Banks at left guard, I think, is going to be there. The center position, I think they're a little bit better this year than they were in 2020. In that, if something does go wrong and Alex Mack retires, at least they have somebody that's been a center. That's there. That's not coming from another team. He's been with them for a couple of years.
Brunskill or Brendel?
No, Jake Brendel. I mean, not that he's great, not that he's anything to write home about. But here's a guy who was active throughout all of last year and has been around the league and could step in and has been part of their system. He's not coming from another team. The week of the first. The week that he needs to start, basically.
David says maybe J.C. Jackson didn't want to play for the 49ers. Why?
Well,
We're in the
I mean,
championship. Why would he not want to play for the 49ers?
J.C. Jackson wanted, J.C. Jackson got a bunch of money, a lot more money up front than what the
That's what he
49ers
wanted.
were
He
offering.
wanted money.
Yeah, he wanted more
Niners
money.
had money to give him. They would have came. Your money's
Maybe.
not good here.
Well, I mean, there was the fact that he's playing with a high school teammate. Maybe that's it. But I think the guys today both hit it. When you're coming out to California, it's a little bit different on the pocketbook when it comes to your living situation.
You think the Niners can get Jaquiski Tartt to resign so he can play with his high school teammate? Hey, we're not really offering that much money, but we got Jimmy Ward. What do you say?
I think so. I think Jaquiski seems like a nice guy who puts the 49ers first, and
even though they don't put him first.
I'm completely being facetious with that, but
me too.
We'll see what happens with it.
Rod says Lynch is the presence of the locker room, the reason why the locker room praised Jimmy faithfully, but we shouldn't have given away Martin Mayhew. Oh, well, Martin Mayhew I don't like Washington bringing in Carson Wentz. That to me was maybe the worst quarterback move of the offseason, like 2 threes, and Ryan's worth 1. You messed up, my opinion. Not a big Carson Wentz fan, although he played really well against the Niners the last 2 years. Eddie says, "Hi, Grant. My name is Eddie, and I am 9. I love your show. You're the best. Go Niners." Thanks, Eddie.
That's nice.
Nice to meet you. My name's Grant, and I'm 34. I appreciate it. Thank you. A 9-year-old give me $10, though? I feel terrible. Terrible.
That's probably his whole allowance right there.
How you give me $10, man? You should not be spending money on the internet at 9 years old. Get your dad. You're on timeout right now. Go to your.
He probably has his dad's credit card.
Get your dad out when you're right. We got to talk. If Jimmy wide receiver was Michael Crabtree, Press would have had fun. Crabtree wouldn't have held back. Crabtree would have said what he felt.
Okay.
Although if you threw the ball to Crabtree, he was happy. Grant, can you please look at the 2019 to 2021 season and tell me where the improvement was from Jimmy? And that tells you why no one offered a trade. Well, according to the reports, it was only because he's hurt. If he was healthy, there would have been a huge market for him.
It's funny because in 2019 and 2020, there wasn't much difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers were in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl both those years. So
keep it going. That's what I've been trying to say. More Jimmy. Convert Jimmy to wide receiver.
He's got wheels. Jimmy wheels.
He's got wheels. All right, moving on. Will the 49ers sign anyone else? I mean, I haven't heard rumors that they're interested in anyone else on the market. They have very little cap space, and big names are flying off the board, such as Zadarius Smith, who went to Minnesota today. What do you think?
I don't think we're going to see them get any big names.
Depth.
Typically, there's going to be depth. Typically, they get busy with guys kind of around week 3 of free agency. It seems like once everything kind of slows down and everybody's just kind of picking through the bargain bin. I think that's what we'll see from them this year. If they're stuck with Jimmy and they're going to be sticking with Jimmy Garoppolo until July, they don't have enough cap room to go out and really sign a whole bunch of guys. They're going to have to bring in guys for, $850,000 to fill out the roster to get their,
I'm available.
To get to 90.
Here's the thing about me.
Too.
I play right tackle, edge rusher, nickel, safety, and wide receiver. So I kind of fill all of the 49ers needs. The Niners need 5 players. I think they need 5 legit contributors. 1 at wide receiver, 1 at right tackle, 1 at nickel, 1 at safety, and 1 at edge. I mean, they don't need a contributor at the edge, but they could certainly use one if they want to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on all 5 of those, and I really think that it's funny because when you go back and you look through kind of the coverage from the combine, those are the positions that for the most part stood out to everybody. Was the wide receiver, the tackles. Yeah. I just have this feeling that the 49ers are in a position where they feel that they are good enough to get into the playoffs, go deep, that they're among the best teams in the NFC, and that if their quarterback had just made a couple of throws last year, they're in the Super Bowl and they lost to the eventual Super Bowl champs. This is the way that I think they feel. It's not too far from the way I look at them because they're bringing so many guys back. They're getting younger. That's where you see like today with K'Wan Williams reportedly going to Denver. They're in the process of getting this roster a little bit younger because they're starting to build it up for a big run like we talked about last week in 23 and 24, I think. And they're going to just be treading water, trying to keep themselves right about that same level. And they're going to be going, everybody that wants them to go in, we're going to see that next year.
Why next year? Why next year? Because the cap goes up next year?
They already have a pretty good amount of cap space set aside for next year. They're going to have to get deals done with Bosa and Samuel. They have some guys that they can restructure next year. It's just like the cap's going to be increasing. I just feel like they're pushing everything in, really kind of looking towards 24 and 23.
Okay, so depth, maybe like a depth piece on the offensive line, a depth piece at wide receiver, and call it an offseason. I love it. I freaking love it. A+. The best. The best.
And they haven't even announced the one thing. When you go back, one thing you got to think about when we're talking about the 49ers and their free agency.
Yes.
Go through where they are right now compared to the other teams in the NFC with the making themselves better, making themselves worse. They're right in the middle of that whole thing. I was looking at like the Packers, for example. The Packers haven't even signed nearly as many of their own guys back as the 49ers. So the 49ers had a pretty solid core, which is where a lot of their money is being spent. Alshire and Flanagan Fowles and Givens, Hasty, bringing in Ward and so on and so forth. So they're bringing back a number of those guys. Juwan Jennings.
Okay.
It's not exciting. I get it.
Speak for yourself, Jack. I am titillated. That's how excited I am about what's going on right now. I love special teams. I'm a special teams enthusiast.
They're special.
I have more to talk about. I had no idea that K'Wan Williams signed with the Broncos. This is interesting to me. Let's talk about the ramifications of K'Wan Williams signing with the Broncos. I'm seeing 2-year deal worth $7 million. I find it very interesting, the differing approaches between Denver and the Niners this year. They're both – I'm looking at Vegas Insider. They have pretty much the same odds to win the Super Bowl, about plus 1,500. I have no idea what that means. I don't gamble because when I do, I lose. Plus 1,500. It's about the same. Yeah. Give or take whatever sports book you're looking at. So they're right in the same spot, Denver and the Niners. And Denver's signing all these vets. They brought in Tom Compton. They brought in DJ Jones. Am I wrong? They're bringing all these Niners vets. All the vets the Niners no longer want, the Denver wants. K'Wan Williams. And it's like, yeah, we're trying to win right freaking now. And the Niners are like, we're getting younger. Yo, 2 years, $7 million? Like, okay, so he was cheap. And is there an upgrade that you're waiting for? Like, you're going to spend a little bit more to get better at that spot? Or are you going to go even cheaper and younger? Because that to me is kind of amazing for a team that has plus 1,500 odds, which I don't understand.
I think, are you asking me what the 49ers are going to do here? Because I think the direction we're going to see them go at the slot. There's a couple of routes. They can go Diameter Lenore. I think fits really well. Lenore is about the same size as K'Wan Williams. Okay. We've got to see him play in there a little bit more. We know that when we watched him in man coverage in camp, he's pretty good in man coverage. He struggled a little bit on the edge. It's a little bit different playing inside. He's a pretty good tackler at Oregon. So you might see him go there. And then the other route, like we talked about before when we were doing discussing about the slot, was sliding inside Emmanuel Mosley inside, bringing Ambry Thomas off the bench to play on the edge during nickel and dime situations. I'm not sure if that one really fits good at this moment because, like you've mentioned, the size of Mosley, and the run fits could be an issue.
I don't know, Jack. I'm starting to wonder, like, how the Niners view their team. Like, they were 3-5. They went on a run. Do they look at themselves as the team that went 9-3 down the stretch, or the team that started 3-5? Because the way they've acted this offseason is like, we were in the NFC Championship game, but a lot had to go our way for us to get there. We had to have divine intervention in Green Bay. God had to literally reach his hand down, block the punt. I mean, a lot went our way. So maybe we just, keep our head down, stick to the process, stick to the plan, and not sign a bunch of 30-year-old vets just because we think we're 1 or 2 plays away. Maybe we're not. Denver thinks they are. The Niners are acting kind of like, you know what? We're good. We're good for sure. But let's make that move next year because we don't even know how good we are right now. Like, we don't like Jimmy. We don't know about the Trey. We're kind of lukewarm about the whole quarterback situation. Let's let the Denver. I don't know, man. How do they use themselves?
It's funny because as you're saying these things, what
Yeah,
I'm hearing is everything that we heard from the 49ers after the 2019 season. Hey,
yeah,
if this play goes our way, if
yeah.
this happens, we're in the Super Bowl.
Right.
We're good.
So
And
why do we
I'm
have to do
hearing this.
anything? Why do we have to do anything? Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of those same things, and the Foreigners are. I think the Foreigners have some depth. Again, this goes back to the quarterback situation. I think if you have Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, I think you insulate yourselves to a lot of the problems that lack of depth could bring.
Fair. I'm surprised they chose Jimmy over DJ, Kwan, and Tomlinson. Yeah, they'd rather spend $40 million on quarterback than have a young quarterback and spend that money to support him. Interesting strategy, Cotton. I would go the other direction, but they were in the NFC Championship game last year, so I'm going to withhold my snark for today. Richard says if they keep Jimmy and sign Sudfeld to those guarantees, it would be financial malpractice. I don't see them keeping Jimmy. Dude, they signed Sudfeld when they were convinced they were going to get 2 2s for Jimmy Garoppolo. Things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Things changed. What do you think,
Yeah.
Jack?
I think you're right there. I think that agreement between those two probably came down before they realized how bad the situation was with Garoppolo and how far they were.
That's why I don't believe their spin that they never thought they could trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Really? Then why'd you give the bag to Nate Sudfeld? What was that?
The only possible landing spot that I can see where this works out for the 49ers for Jimmy Garoppolo is Houston. That's the only location that makes sense for them.
I don't see why Houston would want to do it. They're not a win now team. They don't need respectability. They just had a decent season from Davis Mills, who looks a lot like Jimmy Garoppolo. Why go backward? Unless you want the $27 million backup. Someone might want the $27 million backup. They should make a movie called that.
That's a good one right there.
They should. It could be the guy who played Kurt Warner, the 45-year-old actor who played 27-year-old Kurt Warner. Yeah. He looked really old in that movie. Did you watch that movie? I didn't watch that movie.
I did watch the movie. I love the movie. I thought it was a great movie. The football scenes were not good, but the movie itself was very good.
Yeah. Well, it was based on a book by Mike Silver. Shout out Mike Silver. The King James L says, when does Lynch pay for his horrible mistakes? Lynch has been awful in free agency just in general, not to mention Thomas and Foster in the draft. It's hard to know what Lynch is responsible for, but let's put it like this. The big moves, first round. The first rounds 1, 2, and 3, and the big free agency moves, the big trades, spotty resume. A lot of the Niners' saving graces is their day 3 picks and their undrafted guys. Like Jerick McKinnon, Quan Alexander, D. Ford, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw. I mean, he got Nick Bosa, knocked it out of the park. Debo knocked it out of the park. Dante Pettis. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there's a lot of like big whiffs.
Trey Lance.
Big. We'll see, right? Yes, we'll see. You slid that in there. It's devilish of you. Miguel says and lost in the Super Bowl and lost in the NFC Championship. Talk about Jimmy. Talk about Kyle. Talk about the whole Niner team. Trey Niner says the way this offseason is going, this team seems to be in a halfway rebuilding phase, allowing big contributors to walk and no big signings. Better? Yeah, that's how the Niners do business, man. They are planning for now and in the future at the same time, always. What they did last year. That's how they do.
Yeah, I agree with what Trey just said here, because that's kind of what I just mentioned a few minutes ago about where it seems like they're trying to get younger right before we got into the K'Waun Williams discussion.
David wants to know, Jack, did you see anything at all that would point to Banks being able to start next year?
No, we didn't really see a whole lot of them during training camp. We saw we saw him through the Chiefs game, and he got hurt there, and then we didn't see him again.
We saw him with the pads on.
No, we barely saw him. So there wasn't a whole lot that we saw. The only reason that I would base it off of him maybe being able to be a starter is from what we saw of his college film. And now if he's going back to if he does go back to the left side, is he able to play at the level that he did at Notre Dame in the NFL, which is tough.
The thing with this question, hold on, the one before, it's hard for us to gauge run blocking, running, run defense, tackling in practice because they don't tackle. So when we're like, what I can tell you from training camp is who's good in pass protection, who wins, who loses in pass protection, who gets open, who catches passes, who breaks up passes. I mean, completion percentage. You can tell all the passing game stuff without a pass rush, but who's a good run defender? Who's a good run blocker? That's why I thought Tom Compton was trash. You can't see run blocking in practice. I mean, really, I can't. Maybe you can. I can't see that at all.
It's really hard. But you're right. We get to see the one-on-ones, and that's a lot of the 49ers, other than Trent Williams, the 49ers offensive line across the board really struggles in pass protection.
Really, they make guys like Kentavious Street look like Aaron Donald daily.
Yes.
Just in pass pro. Neil says Jimmy
the-
Garoppolo is the Cassie of the NFL, except he's not loved. Is that a Euphoria reference? Could it be?
I don't know. I haven't watched
Cassie's
that
by
show.
far the worst character on that show. Can I say that? Like her story is so. I mean, I'm only in the first episode of the second season, but like, what is the most basic girl ever? Everyone else has these like crazy stories, and she's like, anyway. Not a big fan of the Cassie character. I'm more of into. I like Zendaya and Fesco. They're both from Oakland. Very interesting. A lot of talent comes from Oakland. Anyway, are the Niners trying to flop or low key rebuild? Are the Niners trying to flop or low key rebuild? I think they're very confident and complacent this offseason. Just like 2020. We basically won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, the Rams won it, but we're better than the Rams. So we're the best team in the league. Why mess with this? That's basically we've seen this before. The Niners are very high on themselves. Very.
I think it's a low key rebuild.
Low key rebuild. A lightweight low key rebuild. Chris says Jimmy's going to win the competition. Warner and Z's will be resting during Jimmy reps. No Jimmy at joint practices. Lance has no chance. Thank you, Chris. That's exactly how I'm thinking, man. Deck will be stacked against his kid, and they can always be like, you know what? Another year on the bench is good for. Work for Aaron Rodgers. Work for Steve Young. But putting $27 million on the bench, when did that ever work for anyone ever? I would love to see him put $27 million on the bench, please. And because now it wouldn't just be 27, it would be 29. Sudfeld too, right? Please do that. They would have the most expensive quarterback bench in the world, by far.
Yeah.
Can't wait. They would spend more on backup quarterbacks than a lot of teams spend on starting quarterbacks. I can't wait to say these things. Please, Kyle, let me say these things. Fantasizing over here. Tapia says any free agent players out there to replace K1? Yes, Stephon Gilmore. How about that? Slide him in the nickel.
There's not a whole lot because the guys that were there, a lot of people thought would slide into that kind of spot nicely have gone other places now.
All right, final question. Are the 49ers relying too heavily on the draft this year? I ask this because we've already said they need a right tackle, an edge rusher, a safety, a nickel back, and a wide receiver. They're pretty done in free agency to get some depth. But by not addressing these spots in free agency, it seems like they're now looking for contributors at maybe 5 spots in the draft, and they don't have a first-round pick. Are they over-reliant on the draft this year?
I think they're relying pretty heavily on the draft for the majority of their depth. I think the 49ers feel really good about what they have with their roster to be their starters, other than maybe one guy. I think safety might be the spot that they try to find a starter at, really. I think it's going to be the safety spot as the one spot which would mean that they're going to go probably round 2 with a safety with their first pick. That seems to be the one that they might go where they feel like they need to get somebody, unless they really like Talanoa Hufanga, which I would disagree with.
They're either over-reliant on the draft this year or they're overly optimistic. Not overly optimistic, but extremely optimistic about their young guys, year 2 and 3 guys, making jumps. Because I feel like this team has been kind of hesitant with rookies in the past. Kyle's not the kind of guy that's like, we drafted you, you're in. You got to prove yourself in practice. You got to show that you're a pro in the meeting rooms. I could see them being like, we really like Colton McKivitz. We really like Diamador Lenore. We love Javon Kinlaw. I can't see them saying that about Aaron Banks till they see him at least in some one preseason game. He's been one preseason game. So 2 preseason games, they could say they really like him. But I could see them kind of having, because that's really like faith in themselves, right? It's like we develop. They've been here. We're invested. Colton McKivitz is the guy. Like, okay, well, you were right about Tom Compton. So, but I think they're very, very. They're putting a lot of faith into some very young players who haven't done it yet, including, but not the quarterback. They are real cautious at quarterback. At nickel, Diamador, you're up. Talanoa, let's go. At quarterback, like Trey, who the hell do you think you are? You think because we spent 3 first-round picks and you were just going, hell no. Jimmy, your team, baby. Trey, wow. I'm there, buddy.
I think they feel very positive about. There's a lot of optimism from the team with a lot of these guys, like you said, and we'll disagree. We'll agree to disagree on the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing because I do feel like it's going to be Trey.
I hope it's Trey.
I feel like it's going to be.
I hope it's Trey.
I feel like there's going to be I agree with you in that I feel like Garoppolo is going to be back. I also feel like I disagree with you in that I believe that it's going to be Lance, because Lance is going to show more than he did last year.
I would like to see it. I just hope the deck isn't stacked against him, because to me, I thought he won the competition last year. Like, Jimmy has nice moments in camp, but the dude threw 11 touchdowns and 11 picks. I think that matters. I thought Trey Lance was like 3-1 his TD-INT ratio. His completion percentage was way lower, but interceptions and turnovers are more important. So you could slice it however you want to slice it. I would expect Trey Lance to win the competition like you. I just, again, hope the deck isn't stacked against him, but that's a whole different level of intrigue that we'll have to dive into and report on at the right time.
That'll be fun.
Jatire says, get Watson. I hope that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Get Watson, wide receiver in the draft. Sign Teron and Clowney. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at Clowney. Teron, yeah. I mean, Watson, I like all that. I like all of it. Is Clowney depth? I mean, how expensive is he?
I don't know what his number is right now. I don't know. And that's one of the things when you with the 49ers I keep, I understand when you look at these guys, some of these guys who have been signed in the first already, like in this first wave of free agents, it's like, why couldn't they could have got 2 or 3 of these guys for the amount of money that Garoppolo has, but that's not really the issue. When a lot of these guys, when you look at their numbers next year, they're looking at like $15-16 million cap hits, which it's just, I think, like what I'm saying, feel like the 49ers are trying to get younger because they're hoping that guys like Trey Lance and so on are going to be worth a lot of money in a couple of years.
Sure. David says, Grant, what's your favorite comedy movie? Jeez, I mean, there's so many. Animal House is probably the greatest comedy of all time. I mean, that's pretty much agreed. Animal House, really funny, but it's made in the 70s. You might not be for you. Personal fave that's on TV a lot that I just find hilarious and I will watch it all the way through every single time is White Chicks. It's not a great movie, but it's hilarious to me. White Chicks by the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
A lot of poignant racial, gender commentary. It's a very woke movie, and it came out in like 2003. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good comedies. A lot of good comedies.
All right, AG. What's up with the behemoth of Alfredo Gutierrez? I'm already pre-depressed going into this new season. Okay, who will become a starter first, Alfredo Gutierrez or Trey Lance?
Stop it. Trey Lance. Alfredo's a big guy, though. He's a very big.
No, basketball players are really tall, but this is the biggest football player I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's a mountain.
I don't know. He's on like the 8-year project plan. It's going to take him a while, but they like him. Tony says Niners won't make a big splash in free agency because it'll mess with their comp pick return, and there's no one they want. Really? Comp picks. Sweet.
Yeah. Aren't the 49ers already in line to get like 2 more third-round comp picks for other guys?
Did you ever know like when your mom or your grandma is like addicted to coupons? It's like, I got this coupon. That's what this is. The comp picks, like, sweet. You got the 159th pick in the Jets. Great. $2 off soap. You win.
So what you're saying is that when the 49ers go out for dinner, they buy a Groupon first?
They bring the Groupon with them. They're like, actually, we filled out our frequency card. We have all the stamps. We would like $5 off, please. Brandon says, hey, Grant, I'm a new listener. Shout out from Las Vegas. Shout out, Brandon. What's your take on the Niners riding out with Jimmy one last time, but also dishing out multiple package plays for Lance to play? They stopped doing that. I think they want Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're going to give Jimmy Garoppolo a 10-year extension. That's what I think. 10 years. Because they got to wait until Trey Lance is roughly 32 before he's ready enough. He's just going to be like an underground project for the next 10 years. And when you least expect it, boom, there he is. Low-key, I've developed Lance more in Madden than Shane has in real life. Oh, man. What kills me about the Niners and Shanahan and Lance is like, they made this trade for him. Everyone was like, oh, my God, don't you know he's a project? And he was like, as soon as they got him, they're like, oh, my God, he's a project. Like, what? Why did you trade? Why did you give the Deshaun Watson package for someone that you're so scared to play? Like, we thought you knew something we didn't know. But no, you're more scared than everyone else. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, man. You should have, I don't know. Jimmy, like, they could have had Micah Parsons last year. If they knew they weren't going to, they could have just not traded for Trey Lance, drafted Micah Parsons, and then traded picks for Deshaun Watson this year. But no, they had to have Lance until they decided that whoa, he lacks experience. No one told us this. What's going on? I don't get that. I don't get that. They're scared.
That's a great comment right there, David.
Didn't you know? We thought you knew. What veteran quarterback they signed once Jimmy is gone? Dude, get real. Jimmy is going to be here forever.
Nate Sudfeld.
He's never going to go away. No. What is the status of Lance Wobble? Maybe Kyle said you don't start until the wounded duck stop. I don't know. He's out there working with, and again, Brandon Ayuk, you're working out with Trey Lance this offseason. What are you thinking? You're gonna get in the doghouse again. It's not going your direction. I'm sorry, you're backing the wrong horse.
Yeah, on the wrong team there. No, I just find this whole thing funny. One of the things that I've seen too many times on Twitter in the last couple of days is that you need to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo because it's not fair to Trey Lance. I mean, come on, it's not fair to Trey Lance to have somebody looking over his shoulder. Really?
Well, let's stay with that because it's fine to have a vet push him. But this isn't any vet, man. This is the 49ers savior. The thing about Jimmy here is he's the freaking savior. He's Jimmy Jesus, and Eric Armstead looks at him that way. A lot of the vets on this team look at him that way, and that's why I feel like it's not a fair quarterback competition. He's got a contingent of this locker room in his corner for life. For life. He can go and throw like 2 picks and 90 yards in a playoff game, and they'll be like, man, that's my quarterback. That's my quarterback. I love that, man. And I've seen it for years. And I don't know why. It's what it is. Maybe Trey Lance breast thinks. I don't know. There's something about Trey. I don't know what it is. Maybe he doesn't return texts quickly enough. Maybe he leaves them on red. I have no idea. But they love them, Jimmy Garoppolo. They love them some Jimmy G. I don't know.
Maybe he's not a fast texter backer. Maybe that
counts. You talk about leadership? You better write back, Trey.
You know what it might be? It might be that where Trey starts to text back, but he doesn't stop, and so it doesn't. He got the bubbles, and then you're like wondering. It's like
done. You don't have to have the last word. Let's go, Trey. Anyway, this whole offseason is getting very intriguing. I can't wait for more Jimmy Garoppolo. I am a closet Jimmy Garoppolo stan. You think I don't like Jimmy? I love Jimmy, and I have so many burner accounts just being like Jimmy's the best. What are you talking about? Just so I can argue with myself. You don't think so? I'm crazy.
So did we just figure out who AD 49ers is?
I wish I was crazy enough to just develop an alter ego like that who would be totally against. That would be so funny. But no, I don't have that kind of time. I wish. Anyway, the show is over. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, Jack.
Thank you. Always fun.
And I'll be back tonight when the Niners inevitably trade Jimmy Garoppolo for 3 firsts. See you then.